Something wicked this way comes. Am I the only one that really loved that title to this episode of Parasyte? Like, oh my god, that title. Something wicked this way comes. I did not realize the actual meaning behind that title until I saw that conclusion of this episode. Like, Miki. 3 parasites. I'm like, what the fuck? So, at the end of this episode, it finally clarifies that parasites can be in the exact same body. Not just one parasite on the head, but there actually can be parasites like, on the arms as we see, and one on the head. So, with this episode, we have a major revelation and cliffhanger with this episode, because Miki and Izumi are now versing 3 parasites at once. Like, 3 people in one body. And that's fucking ridiculous, because even if you include Miki and Izumi as, a person, like 2 different people, they're still fighting 3 people, so there's one more person that is incredibly strong. So, they're at a major disadvantage with this ending. Like, oh god, how are they going to win? Here's the other thing you have to wonder about. With this new parasite that came up in this episode with 3 different parasites inside of him, there's something very off and weird about this parasite. For one thing, this parasite is very expressive. He expresses his emotions. It might be Miki that's expressing it. Like, I don't know necessarily if it's Miki as the entire whole of the body, or if it's Miki just the head, or if there's actually different body parts that have their own separate names. For instance, we don't technically know if Miki is actually, like, the only active thinker. A parasite in that body. Like, since technically Miki actually controls the head, I think it might be possible that he could probably control the other parasites since they're attached to his nervous system, and since technically they're the exact same being, it might be possible, but we don't technically know until we see next episode. But either way, I'm still wondering, does each parasite have their own individual brain? And if it's not that, I'm also wondering, too, if, like, it's just Miki that has the Miki name, and also, is Miki the only one that's technically that expressive? Because it would be incredibly weird having to be in a body with 2 other parasites. Imagine in one body and having 3 different people in one body trying to control it in different directions. That'd be kind of fucked up. So, This lays on the table that there's other parasites out there that have integrated with other parasites. Now that we know that technically 3 parasites can be in one body, this also pretty much lets us know that there could probably be, more parasites in one body, because you can have one in, the head, one in the arms, pretty much, or the hands, technically, and then you can have one in the chest. You can probably have one for the lower part of the chest, one for the legs, and so, pretty much, you can have multiple parasites in one body, probably even one in the neck, too, if you want to think about that, too. So, with this revelation, we find out that a lot of parasites can conjoin in one body, and I'm quite interested to see exactly what is going to go down, and how is Miki and Izumi supposed to outsmart 3 parasites at once. Now, moving past that, with this episode, it's mainly, I guess, more of a setup for what this battle really means, because for a majority of the battles that we have seen so far from Parasyte, it's always been to where Miki and Izumi overpower their opponent, because technically it's 2v1, or 1v1 in their eyes, because Miki and Izumi are technically in one. And that's actually something I want to dive into. So, I don't know if it's just me, but I felt like the dialogue with what Izumi said in this episode felt like some very subtle foreshadowing, like him stating like, oh, we need to kill them one by one, or one on one. And I was thinking like, wait a minute, so you're counting as Miki as if it was you. And so I know what he technically meant by that. He wasn't really counting Miki, but what I'm getting at is it felt like that was subtle foreshadowing for saying that Miki and Izumi are fusing or mixing, because we do know since the revelation of what happened to Izumi's heart, Miki's spreading around all inside of Izumi's body. And then with this episode, with that dream sequence, ooh, I want to dive into that in just a moment. But it makes me believe that that entire, conversation, or that line of dialogue means that it's foreshadowing that Miki and Izumi are fusing as one. And I feel like that's what's going on. So, a majority of the fights, Izumi and Miki have always fought one-on-one. And this is the first time they've ever actually fought an opponent that is 3 people in one. And that means that, like, one hand could be for defense, like, defend the neck. One could be on the attack, and another could be on the attack or defense, too. So, pretty much, they're at a disadvantage. Because, Miki has to worry about the defense, while Izumi technically is kind of like, the attacker. or it can be vice versa. But if you have 2 attackers versus 1 attacker, that's not damn good at all, because, I mean, Miki's technically equal to 1 Parasyte. And if there's 2 Parasytes, we know for a fact, you know, maybe Izumi can versus 1 Parasyte, okay? We can understand that. So that still leaves 1 Parasyte up in the air that could possibly be very strong. So we have to wonder what will happen. So moving past that, let's get on to the actual dream sequence of this episode. So, the dream. If I know anything when it comes to Parasyte and its dreams, they usually mean something. They're usually foreshadowing, and there's a deep meaning inside of these dreams. Look at what happened to, you know, Connor. Alright. So, let's think about this. That dream in this episode with Izumi, that brief little dream, it makes me believe that ending, it makes me believe that Miki is slowly taking over Izumi's brain, because from what I understood from that dream, like looking at the surroundings, now I couldn't understand exactly where all the surroundings were, but judging by the surroundings of it, it looked like a cell of Miki or something was actually eating on Izumi's brain. That's what it looked like to me, from looking at the visuals and surrounding of whatever that was that looked like a skeleton Miki. And so, it makes me think that maybe Izumi might be, like, talking with Miki's cells or something. I mean, it might not even be talking with the cells, but I feel like that's foreshadowing to show that Miki's cells are invading Izumi's mind and, like, devouring his actual human mind. That's also what that can possibly mean, but I feel like there's more stuff and more meaning behind that than meets the eye. Now, other things going on in this episode, besides that, pretty much Izumi is like a #1 hit list person. For instance, all the Parasytes are coming after Izumi after killing that dude at the beginning of this episode that was at the feeding ground. So, Izumi is being targeted by every Parasyte in the city, which is not damn good at all. And that means that his actual family is in danger. For instance, Murano, you know, you have it to where his father's in danger, stuff like that. So, Izumi's kind of fucked at the moment. So we have to see exactly what he's going to do with the course of action he has to take, and that's laid out before him. Now, other things about this episode that, you know, it kind of set up. Murano. Murano seems like in this episode she actually understood what technically Izumi has been doing for her. Like, it seemed like with the dialogue that was displayed in this episode, it seems like Murano finally caught on that Izumi actually has been going out of his way to protect her from danger, and she caught on at the gate, and she said, oh, and then she couldn't chase after him because, you know, he jumped over the gate. But it seems like she actually managed to realize what he's been doing for her, so I wonder if her entire personality is going to kind of shift a little bit to where she understands what Izumi is doing, and it might eventually lead it to where Miki will reveal himself to Izumi, because, I mean, we gotta look at the opening song. The opening song hasn't changed, and from the opening song, it shows Izumi and Murano, you know, hugging in the nude, pretty much. And speaking of the nude, dude, Goto, what the fuck, man, what the fuck, dude, Goto in this episode, like, did you see that? He was playing fucking chopping on the piano, he's like, you know, he's playing fucking chopping, and you just see him nude, he's in his fucking underwear, dude, he's like in his fucking underwear, he's playing chopping, I'm like, what the fuck is it, like, what, like, why is Goto, this Parasyte, in this fucking boxers, playing fucking chopping, I'm like, that's awkward. That's fucking awkward. But, hey, I can't judge a Parasyte, okay? I won't judge. I don't judge for their preference of wanting to play the piano in the nude. But, like, what the fuck? So, moving past that episode, overall, very good episode. I mean, it, once again, sets up a lot of stuff. It goes into the human ego with Izumi, for instance, him wanting to save as many people as he can in the middle of this episode. So, pretty much a lot of setup for what things we should probably expect for the future of Parasyte. Let me know in the comments below, how do you feel about this episode? I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.